Hello friends, you are watching my YouTube channel Zorgesar Biology. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss the next topic in your syllabus. This is the fourth topic, molecular basis of inheritance. The very first, the inheritance we have already studied. It is the transmission of characters from one generation to the next generation, or you can say transmission of characters from parents to the offsprings. This is nothing but the inheritance, and for the inheritance, who is responsible? The responsible factor is a molecule. The responsible factor is a molecule. Then, which is the molecule which is responsible for the inheritance? Whether it is protein, whether it is RNA from the cell, or whether it is DNA from the cell. The very first, the scientists do not know what exactly is the genetic material or what is exactly responsible for the transmission of characters or for the inheritance. And the very important thing, today we know the factor for inheritance, these are the genes or the chromosomes, but earlier the scientists do not know whether the genes are responsible, means whether the DNA is responsible, whether the RNA is responsible, or the proteins are responsible, or any factor or any content from the cell is responsible for the inheritance. And from this research, the very first thing is the discovery of DNA. First, the scientists discovered the DNA, the Friedrich Mischer. The Friedrich Mischer discovered the DNA, but actually he discovered the substance called nuclei. He did not know the DNA, but he called the substance as a nuclei. After this, the various studies shows the double helical model or the double helical structure of DNA from this nuclein substance. The very important or the landmark in the discovery of DNA was led by the Friedrich Mischer in 1969. What he did, the experiment he performed on the pus cells from the infection. The WBCs are the source of nucleus. He collected from the pus cells in the infection. He collected the pus bandages from the local hospitals. The bandages contain the pus from the infection, and this pus contains WBCs as a major component, and WBCs contains nucleus. He collected the pus bandages, then he washed off this pus from the salt solution from the bandages. He used the salt solution to wash the pus from the bandages, and he collected the pus cells, these are nothing but the WBCs, and he added a weak alkaline solution for the cell lysis. These WBCs are the cells, intact cells. For the cell lysis, he wants the nucleus from the cell, and for the cell lysis, means for the breakdown of the cell, he used the weak alkaline solution, and this weak alkaline solution does the cell lysis, breaks off the cells, and nuclei are precipitated out from the solution. And this solution, weak alkaline solution, contains the precipitation of the nucleus, and he isolated the chemical substance from the nucleus and named as a nuclei. The very important thing is he isolated the chemical substance. He isolated a specialized chemical substance from the collected nucleus, from the pus cells or from the WBCs, and he named this substance as a nuclein. Nuclein means the substance present in the nucleus, the meaning of the nuclein. What that substance, he do not know exactly what the substance is. Hence he named this substance as a nuclein. Understood the discovery of DNA or the discovery of nuclein by the Friedrich Mischer? First, he collected the bandages as a source of pus and pus cells. He washed off the bandages by using the salt solution. Then these cells are lysis, or the cells are break down by using the weak alkaline solution. After breakdown, the solution contains the precipitation of the nucleus, and this nucleus contains the specialized substance called nuclein. Now, what the nuclein exactly is? The nuclein is rich in phosphorus content, and the nuclein is a mixture of, the very important, the nuclein is a mixture of protein and nucleic acids. The substance he found from the nucleus or nuclein is nothing but a mixture of protein and nucleic acids. Proteins are histone and non-histone proteins for the packaging, and nucleic acids. Now, what are nucleic acids? This nuclein shows some acidic properties, hence name nucleic acids. The nucleic acids are nothing but the DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid, and RNA, ribose nucleic acid. Understood the DNA and RNA? How the discovery of DNA takes place? From the nuclein of Friedrich Michel. Now, for the inheritance, what exactly is responsible? Here two substances are found, the proteins and nucleic acids. Now, what is responsible for the inheritance? Is the protein is responsible for the inheritance, or nucleic acids means DNA or RNA? Which substance is responsible for the inheritance? The Friedrich Michel and the scientists at that time do not know. This discovery is only limited to the protein nucleic acids, that is DNA and RNA, but the scientists do not know exactly which is the substance responsible for the inheritance, whether it is protein is responsible, or nucleic acids are responsible, or DNA and RNA are responsible for the inheritance. Now, the very important, the second step is genetic material is the DNA. Now, the scientists perform the various experiments to prove that genetic material is DNA and not the RNA and protein. Now, in early 1900s, some scientists believed that the protein is responsible for inheritance, because the nature of protein, it is a macromolecule, it is a folded structure, and some scientists thought that, or some scientists believe that the protein is responsible for the inheritance, because the protein is the larger molecule and protein directs the various biochemical reactions in the cell. The protein is responsible to control the various metabolic activities of the cells. So, some scientists believe that the protein is also responsible for the inheritance and variations in the progeny. But some scientists performed a series of experiments to prove or to discover whether the protein is responsible, whether the RNA is responsible, or the DNA is responsible for the inheritance and variation. This series of experiments was performed by, the first experiment was performed by the Frederick Griffith. It is very popular experiment, Griffith's experiment. The second experiment was performed by the Avery, McLeod and McCarthy's experiment, and the third experiment was performed by Hershey and Chase by using radioactive probes, or the radioactive phosphorus and sulfur, to prove the DNA is the genetic material. So, understood the discovery of DNA. Now let us study the experiments to prove the DNA as a genetic material. 1 minute.